Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to talk about something that's very sensitive and pretty personal to me, but I felt the need to kind of share my journey because in hopes I can help somebody else that is suffering from the same thing, or you might have a loved one, a friend that has the same thing. So today's video is not going to be a travel video. It's not going to talk about my LASIK surgery, anything like that. This video is my journey with PTSD, and we're going to talk about what PTSD, the symptoms of PTSD, and a little bit of what my day-to-day life is with PTSD. I am going to try to make this as short as possible and maybe break this down into several videos. We'll see how this goes. If you like what I am talking about, please subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and comment, because I think this is something we need to talk about. Mental health is something that we need to talk about. I don't think we should shy away from it. It is a big issue, and I am here to talk about it. So let's begin. So before we begin, I just want to let you know that I will be looking down at my notes because it is long and it's a lot to remember. And secondly, this is a disclaimer. I am not a professional. So I've never declared that I am a professional. If you need professional advice, you need to go see a professional. This is just a list that I found off the internet and some of the things that I deal with on a day-to-day basis. So without further ado, let's continue. So what PTSD is? PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. Back in the day, they used to only associate PTSD with people from the military, and so it used to be called shell shock or battle fatigue. Now they have known that it does not always have to pertain to the military. You can have it from different traumatic things that happen in your life. So what is PTSD? Since I already kind of told you what it was, or that it's post-traumatic stress disorder. It is, and I'm going to read this off my notes. It develops after a person has experienced or witnessed a traumatic or terrifying event in which serious physical harm occurred or was threatened. PTSD is a lasting consequence of traumatic ordeals that cause intense fear, helplessness, or horror. So that is the definition that I got what PTSD is. So when I say there's many ways you can get PTSD, that's why that's the description. So I'm going to go over the types of PTSD, but I'm not going to describe all of them except for one. And the reason why is because that's the one I have. And also, again, I'm not a professional and I don't really know too much about the other ones. They're online that you can find it, but I'm not really going to talk about them. So the list of types of PTSD is acute stress disorder, uncomplicated PTSD, comorbid PTSD, and complex PTSD. And complex PTSD is the category that I fall under. And other things that, and let me rephrase that. The next one is complex PTSD. And complex PTSD is where I fall under and where is the most common PTSD out there. This is where you get the child abuse, child sexual trauma, prisoner of war, and domestic violence all fall under this complex PTSD. And again, which I fall under. So what are the symptoms of PTSD? The symptoms of PTSD can occur from 3 months from the event, from years later of the traumatic event happening. So keep that in mind when we are talking about PTSD and the symptoms, because sometimes they can happen right away and sometimes they can happen years, sometimes even decades later. So the symptoms are reliving events, reoccurring or unwanted memories, and that can be from doing something in your daily life in the daytime and having what you call a flashback, reliving that actual event that happened that caused that trauma. And that is probably one of the top things that people with PTSD deal with. And I call that flashbacks because I'll get more down to why it's more during the day than it is at night. Avoiding. People with PTSD they avoid things to protect themselves. They build this wall up and it's just to protect them. So they avoid things, places, situations, anything that can ultimately do what they call a trigger, can trigger something in you that will bring you back to that particular traumatic event that you had. So they will avoid certain events, whether it might be going out, dealing with a large party, hanging out with friends, hanging out with family members, etc., etc. So they do a lot of avoiding. Third one is increase arousal or very heightened senses. Second thing is negative cognition and mood. Now, the cognition part would be memory loss, the inability to concentrate, so you lose concentration, your memory. Those are type of things that I mean by negative cognition. Things that you might have used to been able to do, you can't do no more. So you are unable to concentrate or remember things as well as you probably used to. And then the negative mood could be the depression, anxiety, the hopelessness, sadness. That would be a negative mood. Another one would be difficulty with relationships and social functionings. Like I said before, people with PTSD tend to avoid situations, avoid people. They do that and we're really good at doing it. We don't mean to do it. We're sometimes even unaware that we do it. It's just something that we do. It's just ingrained in us to do, and it's more to protect ourselves than it is to hurt somebody else's feelings. And this causes problems in relationships or social settings, and you lose friends. And I've lost friends over it. Luckily for me, my husband is ex-military as well, and he has been very helpful and he understands the situation that I'm going through. Physical health problems. So physical health problems is another issue with people with PTSD, because not only are you dealing with something on a mental issue, now you got to deal with something on a physical issue. So I'm going to take myself as an example. I was also injured while I was in the military. I broke my back twice while I was in the military and it was never treated or healed properly while I was in the military. It was never treated properly, meaning I got treatment. They gave me something for it, but it was not the proper way to treat my back injury. And when I did have a back injury, because they said I was young and healthy, they let me go back and do the job I was doing without letting my back actually heal properly. So now I have long-lasting problems with my back. So with my back issue, there are times where I just cannot get out of bed. My back is hurting so bad, and I have really bad muscle spasms to the shooting pain going down my legs, and my hips start to hurt, and I just can't get out of bed. And when I can't get out of bed, if I can't take a shower or brush my teeth, doing those basic daily living or daily life things, it puts me in a funk or puts me in a depression, and it puts me in this why me and pity party of me, and then I don't want to get up. And what turns into a day of me being in pain turns into 3 days of me moping and in pain and have my depression because of my PTSD. So it's almost a roller coaster effect when I'm dealing with another physical ailment on top of my PTSD. So that's what I mean by physical health problems. The other one is substance abuse. A lot of people with PTSD become addicts, whether it's alcohol, illicit drugs, prescription drugs, over-the-counter drugs. That is a big issue with people with PTSD. The other ones, again, are anxiety and panic attacks and nightmares. Nightmares is one of the biggest ones, and something along the line of the reoccurring memories or reoccurring daydreams and flashbacks. So instead of being in the daytime and thinking that you're there where the trauma happened, your nightmare happens at night, where you're sitting there and you're dreaming about that event, and those nightmares become violent. The person with PTSD becomes violent. They can become violent to their spouse because they're reliving in their dream their trauma. Bedwetting can occur, waking up and then not being able to fall asleep. Another symptom that I experience is insomnia, and I have it really bad. I can go without sleep from 12 to 72 hours, which again, if you don't get enough sleep, you're not going to want to get up and do things and be productive. And that puts you back in the slumps and depression and anxiety, and all that stuff starts happening again. So it's really hard to kind of balance your life when you have all these different symptoms. So those are all the symptoms. Now I want to kind of explain a little bit of the PTSD I got, because I believe in awareness, and I'm hoping I can spread awareness to those around me, because I think mental health is very important. And I'm not going to go into details about my trauma, because I'm still working on that, and it's something that I keep kind of close to heart, and not a lot of people know what has happened, and I kind of want to keep it that way, at least for now. But I will go through what I can and what I feel more comfortable going through with you about. So I'm trying to see if I can make a second video of this, and we'll go from there. But right now, I'm going to explain to you that I have been diagnosed with PTSD from MST. And MST is called military sexual trauma. And you can get that from all range of things, from rape to sexual assault. And sexual assault doesn't necessarily mean rape. And there are two ways of going about that. And harassment and so forth. So I was diagnosed with MST from the military. So with that being said, again, that's why I don't like to talk about it, because it's so personal to me, and I feel ashamed about it sometimes. And sometimes I feel like maybe I deserved it, or I brought it on myself. There's all these different things and emotions that go through me, and I don't like to talk, and that's the reason why I don't like to talk about it. One, and then the other thing is, it brings me back to a very dark place, and it just brings all these unwanted memories, and then I'm going to think about it later today and probably have a nightmare from it. So I try to avoid it at all costs. So that is a little bit about my MST PTSD. Now, I do want to stress, if you know somebody that suffers from PTSD, whether it's in the military or civilian, we can live a normal life, and we try so hard to live that normal life, and we want people to understand we can live normal lives, but then we also, sometimes people with PTSD feel like no one understands us. And so learning, hopefully by watching this video, you're learning a little bit about how we feel or what we go through on a daily basis, just to be alive and to breathe and to do daily functions. If you are feeling suicidal, I am going to leave a link below of a suicide hotline. If you are feeling suicidal, just know there are people around you that love you, that care about you, that want you around them. So if you are feeling suicidal, please talk to somebody. Dial this number. It's a 1-800 number. It is free. It is anonymous. No one has to know it's you. And you could talk to somebody for free. 24 hours a day, there's a hotline for you. Check it out if you need it. Until next time, take care.